Yo, yo, yo. We are live on the line after dark special edition. Man, tonight's guest hails from Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's the child of Joe and Audrey. He has a sister, three brothers, three-time letterman at college, played high school football, basketball, baseball. Most recently was a 20-year coach at Butler High School, three-time state champion, nine-time conference champion, ranked number 3 in the nation in 2012, numerous Coach of the Year titles, coached countless D1 and NFL players, had an overall record of 132 and 35 at Butler High School. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than Coach Brian Hells. Welcome to On the Line.
What is up, guys? How you doing tonight?
Man, we're doing fantastic.
Man, I felt like Apollo Creed at the beginning of Mr. T.
Hey man, we got to bring. It's only right we bring out a champion like a champion.
Thank you.
There it is, man. How you doing there, Coach?
Man, I'm doing great. I had to run some errands after school today. I got done and it was like 3:30. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is how it works. This is what people do. So yeah,
Freedom.
man, wild.
Hey man, sorry I didn't introduce my co-host T Bizzle, the Biz with T Bizzle podcast. Man, be sure to check that out. We're gonna have my man Coach Booker coming on soon, man, making a fantastic cameo, picking this program up a little more. But anyway, Coach, man, we thank you for coming on. I know everybody's been after you. You're the hot topic, the hottest story in North Carolina football right now. So, man, just tell us how you been, man. How's the journey been? Like, what's it like to coach in the same program for 20 years?
It's unbelievable. I mean, I know it's probably overused and sounds kind of lame to say that, but it really is. Like, you know, when I met with the coaches on Sunday night, to tell them, what I was doing, we met down in the field house, and I told them, two stories at the time, and the one story I told them was it was the first summer that I was at Butler, so it was 2004. And we just sent the kids out to go sell the gold cards. The discount gold cards was a fundraiser, and we were doing a sleepover in the gym that night and all that stuff. But after the kids are gone, Mike and I were standing down there at the field house, and the conversation was, again, this was, August 2004, was what do we have to do to take down independence? And but like I remember the conversation like it happened this afternoon. So yeah, that, and then like the day I got hired, I think it was like a Thursday, and he's like, yeah, so also we're going up to NC State for team camp on Sunday, and you're going to ride with this guy named Steve Shaughnessy. I don't know if you ever met him before, and I hadn't. So yeah, like I remember these conversations like they were yesterday, and excuse me, to sit back and like just think of all the things that have happened in the last 20 years. Like, it's mind blowing. Like, it doesn't feel like it. Like, I feel like it happened to somebody else.
Oh, I always feel like it just happened overnight.
Yeah. I was kind of half expecting to wake up Tuesday morning and be like 15 years old and I'm in Scranton. Like, the whole thing like was a dream.
Did you always want to be a head coach?
Yeah, well, I always knew I was going to coach because the guys I grew up playing for, they're legends. Like some of them are like legends. Like the guy that was my football coach my senior year is in like basically every high school Hall of Fame you could be in. Guys like top 2 or top 3 in Pennsylvania in history and wins, but like there was that part where I played for a guy like that, but like all these other guys I played for, they're all characters. I mean, men of character, but they're characters. I mean, these are fun dudes. They're great guys to be around. And, like, they're the kind of guys, like, you couldn't wait to be at practice and at games and just be around them because it was a good time, And I thought, man, what a way to live a life. So I just kind of always gravitated to those guys until I became one, basically.
Awesome.
No doubt, man. So that's kind of like saying that you kind of looked up to those figures in the neighborhood, and that kind of inspired you to walk that path that you walked, that you chose to walk, right?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, see, I mean, you talk about the neighborhood, like where I grew up, it was a big Irish Catholic neighborhood. It was the Greenridge section of Scranton. And Philando was saying in the intro, like I was one of 5 kids in the family, but we were like a mid-sized family for the neighborhood. Like there was like 9, 10, 12 kids in the family. So like it was literally like I grew up in the movie The Sandlot. So like there was always something going on, man. It was awesome. So like sports was everywhere. Like we used to have to shovel off the basketball courts after Christmas so we could like play with the new ball you got.
Man, those were the days.
Yeah, man. But I mean, like that's I said, like I just didn't ever really want to grow up. So that's and here we are. I
Yeah,
never did.
no doubt, no doubt. So, coach, did you come up playing youth football?
No, ma'am. I played the first organized football game I played. I was in ninth grade.
Okay,
Oh wow.
Yeah. We played at a place called Tree Stadium. Like, and I grew up like it, and it was like almost on the campus. It was called Marywood College. It was just real small liberal arts school. And at first it was all girls school, and unfortunately, I was young. I was too young by the time it converted over to co-ed. But growing up there, so there's these great areas. But there's this one place that was called Tree Stadium because it had these big oak trees lining like both sides of the big grassy area, and that
hmm,
was the sidelines. And it just like generation after generation of kids at Greenridge like grew up playing at Tree Stadium. Like that's where you had to play to make a name for yourself.
no
Awesome, man.
doubt, no doubt.
Let me ask you this: um,
Mhm.
winning 3 state titles, 2 undefeated seasons. Um, Share some key moments that you knew these teams are going to be special, man. That you knew they had what it took, and when did you recognize that? Was in spring, winter? Like when did you know these guys going to be those guys?
I think really like it was an in totality thing. It wasn't like all of a sudden like 2009 we were good and good win a state championship, and then like oh yeah we're good again in 10. Like this thing had been building, and
Mm-hmm.
really so when I got to Butler that summer I got there in '04, that was also there's a freshman class that came in when I did that had Jacob Charest, who was the quarterback who went to Illinois, that had Robert Blanton, who played, whatever, 6, 7 years in the NFL, and Spencer Adams, who ran the hurdles professionally, and all these guys were in this class, and those guys just kind of it became a thing, and I don't know what it was or how it happened, but it did. They just, one of the big moments I think was as crazy as it sounds, it was the JV game in
Mm.
2007. And we were playing Independence. It was the last game of the year, and we were both 9-0 at the time. Now they had also, they had like a 60-game JV winning streak going, and we ended up beating them that night, and the score was 14-13, and it was a deal like we went for two with like 10 seconds left to win the game, and so all that happened, and then we won the next night. We won on Friday, and that broke the big winning streak. The big varsity winning streak. So that was kind of, those were huge nights. Going back, and that was 2007, and that was 2 full years before we won a state championship. But it was those guys and the guys that were still there, the older guys that kind of,
Mm.
like I, said, going back to that conversation Newsom and I had, like they were the ones. It was their mission to take those guys down, and it was just kind of like I said, a culmination of things.
Man, you were blessed too. You mentioned your quarterback, and then right after that, I think you had Christian LeMay, Riley,
Yeah.
um, Anthony, my nephew. You
Hmm.
had Cheeks. Then you had Peters. Man, you had a string of D1 quarterbacks. Man,
Hmm.
how much easy does that make your job?
Oh, it does. I mean, geez, I'd be a fool to say it didn't. I mean, these guys are great, and the thing about it is they're all so freaking competitive, and that's, I mean, ultimately that was the one gene that all these guys shared. Because,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, you guys saw all these guys play, or
Yeah.
most of them play, like they were all way different. It's different. As Christian was from Riley, was from Ant, and they were all had their own style and their own things they were good at. But that's what made it so much fun is them being able to tailor the offense around what that quarterback did. And man, yeah, you ain't kidding. Like blessed as blessed could be when it
Yeah.
comes to that.
I mean, not only the quarterbacks, but you got some.
Yeah.
Each one of those teams had a dog running back and
Mhm.
amazing receivers, man. Like the skill position were out of chain. I mean, just out of this world. So, but we know nothing happens without the trenches. Who are some
Mhm.
notable guys that you had in the trenches, man? That we don't really get. They don't get a lot of spotlight because they do the grunt work. Who's some of
Yeah.
your guys that stand out in the trenches for you over those years?
I mean, and that's as much as I love the quarterbacks and RBs and all that. Like, yeah, I'm an O line guy, so these guys are so special to me. And obviously, you talk about O line, D line with Butler. I mean, everybody knows about Kendall Lamb and the 9-10 years he's put in the NFL. But I mean, I look at that 2009 O line. And it was so cool because you had Kendall and Rick Ariana who were like 6'4" and 6'5", and then you have our two guards that were like 5'10", 5'11",
Hmm.
Ryan Farrell and Ben Hurd. And then you have Drew Davis in the middle at like 5'8". And
Wow.
it was just such a cool group to coach. But I mean, all those guys and, gosh, I mean, you talk about, Jalen Cowser and Bryce Dix,
Yeah.
guys like that on the defensive side. And, even going back further, a kid like Colin Parsons and BJ Woodley and,
Wow.
like you said, I mean, you mentioned the quarterbacks, but I mean, and we have these conversations amongst ourselves all the time, like who would be your all-time Butler team? And good
Hmm.
God, man, like
Woo.
kind of mood you in that day.
Be some
Like
hurt
you can do what
feelings.
you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I
Yeah.
mean, it's been unbelievable.
Yeah, and coach, with all that success, man, what were some of the most challenging situations you faced, and how did you navigate through those challenges through certain seasons?
So funny thing about that, so this is right after I got the job. And I think, and this was my, hey, congratulations, you wanted to be a high school head coach. This is what you get. It was probably less than a month in, to me taking over after Newsom left, and I got a call from one of our players that someone close to them had been talking about hurting themselves that night.
Mm.
She's like, Coach, what do I do? I'm like, okay, all right, this is the job. The X and O's are great, but this
Mm.
is what the job is. Like these kids are going to need you, and they're going to need you 24/7, and you don't know. But that first year, that first spring, guy came down recruiting. He was the head coach at Youngstown State at the time, and
Hmm.
he went out. He and I went out after spring practice, grabbed dinner, and he had just become a head coach as well the year before. And, conversation we had, he said, when my friends asked me, what's it like to be a head coach? And I said, well, it's like this. You have to have an hour set aside every single day because at some point in that hour, somebody's going to kick you right in the, favorite body part, but you
Right.
don't know where it's going to come from. Like could be a kid situation, could be a parent situation, it could be a pipe burst on the practice field situation, but that's what the real challenges are, is the
Mm.
fact that it's every day. It could potentially be something. You just have to be ready to take on anything.
No
Yep.
doubt, man. Because
That's what.
I'm sorry for Linda. Well, everybody looks
Mhm.
at it like, okay, well, it's this big time successful program, but it's
Yeah.
gotta be it's gotta be some kind of disconnect somewhere. Everything's not always perfect. So that was I feel like that was a
Hmm.
good answer to the question that I asked, Coach.
Well,
Thanks.
let's just keep that going. So
Yeah.
you've coached several Division I players and obviously NFL players. How do you approach player development, and what role does mentorship play in your coaching philosophy?
Oh, I think one of the big things that our program hopefully was known for is the fact that I brought in a lot of former players to coach with us. I think as I stepped away, I think we had 6 former players on staff. And to me, that's huge
Mm.
because the kids, whether they know each other or not, I mean, the coach grew up here. He knows the area. He knows what a lot of the challenges are. They may know some of the same people and things like that. So, being able to have somebody like that around that knows them. And then, from there, just, selecting assistant coaches. And every one of them could tell you, like my interview, when I interview these guys, it takes like 5 minutes because for the most part, I already know football wise what they do. Like the most recent hire we had was Little John. And like I'd competed against him so many times that it's, okay. So for me, the interviews, what do you bring to the table besides that? Because anybody could coach X's and O's. How do I know you're going to care about the kids? Because that's the most important. And we spend so much
Facts.
time together, and whether you want to accept it or not, we are role models, we are father figures. So it was really important that we put really good people around these kids, and from there, the football takes care of itself. If you're really passionate and you really care about it, you're going to learn the things that we do, and we just take it from there.
No
That's
doubt.
dope, man. Yeah, you got. Speaking of your assistant coaches, man, you've kept some dogs in the kitchens, man. Like I'm surprised you've been able to keep them that long, man. And they're not head coaches somewhere. So,
Right? No
man,
kidding.
yeah, yeah, you
Coach,
got
let me
great coaches all over the place, man. My son really enjoyed playing over there. So,
Oh, I
yeah,
know. Well, we loved having them, and that's one of the things too. And that goes back to, the first principal we had at Butler was Joel Ritchie. And, we've had six. I've been there for all of them. But I had done something my first year teaching, and it was some rookie mistake. I did something stupid. Um, but he called me into the office the next day after, he got a call from a parent. And he basically said, look, I hired you to do a job. I don't need lesson plans. I don't need to know what you're doing every day. Go do your job. Go be a professional. Just let me know if a parent's going to call. But
right.
that mindset, and then Teresa Hopkins came after that, and there's so much the same way, and they came along at such an important time for me as I'm kind of shaping my values and things like that, and then coaching under Mike Newsom, where these guys, these people are all just go do your thing, go figure it out. We trust you. Do your thing, and that's, I mean, honestly, that's what we've always done. Over at our place is just coach, and there's no, hey, turn your practice plan. Let me do what you're doing at this time. Like, no, go. I hired you. If you're screwed up, that's on me.
Yeah, it happens.
No doubt. No doubt. And coach, how you've put together, a lot of good coaching staffs, and how do you feel about coaching against the guys that's actually on your staff and seeing them, be able to blossom into their own, being a head coach now, and or if it's an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, how do you feel when you go up against your peers, man, guys that you
Um,
had on your staff? What's
I
that like?
mean, it's nothing but pride. It's nothing but pride. Pride for one. Pride for one. Because again, I mean, these guys when they came in, and what they knew and what their desires were, and to see them, kind of achieve those things, and move their way up. And one thing I'm really proud of about the guys that we've had that have done that is you see so many guys that are in such a hurry to leave and go get another job and go
Mm-hmm.
get this title, go get that. These guys that moved out, like they stayed with us, and they stayed, and they learned and they paid dues, and they had a chance to experiment with their style and that. So they learned how to be coaches, at our place, and they weren't just jumping. So really just so proud of that. But then just want to beat the hell out of them because
There it
it's a
go.
game and
There it is.
There it go.
score. So I mean, come on.
I just kind of piggyback off that. So when I started actually noticing the Butler program, my nephew was there, and then my son played there. Then after my son left, some of the kids I trained playing there. But one thing I did notice is that you always had like strong family like support from the parents. Like how do
Mhm.
you cultivate that family atmosphere? Because I think that's really important to building a program, right? And I've
Mhm.
always known that for Butler.
Oh yeah, that's huge. And again, and this when I met with the kids the other day, and when I sent my email to the parents and that, I told them both that like I didn't create anything. Like I didn't create any culture at Butler. Like Butler was Butler when I got there, and it was just a matter of carrying over what went on. So to say that, like I really have never had interference from parents. Like very rare. I mean, you get an email here and there, this problem. I mean, that's stuff pops up, but like to hear some of the stories where coaches are talking about like, yeah, I've got parents coming to the meeting or coming to practice wanting to do this, and I'm like, that sucks. Like we don't have to worry about
Yeah,
that. You know, I
you can't
do
relate.
every once in a while,
Right.
but it's just everybody's like, "Hey, we're here. What can we do to help out?" You know, it's almost like we don't want to be the ones to screw this up. So how do we help? So
Um, how
yeah,
much is
man,
winning playing a part in that?
it plays a huge part in it. It plays a
Okay.
huge part. Everybody wants to be around a winner and
Right.
feel good at the end of a Friday night. And that's a good thing and a bad thing too.
Right.
Because just because your team's not successful doesn't mean you shouldn't be helping out either.
Right.
I mean, geez, you talk about crews that need it more than any, and those are the ones. So,
Hmm.
that's why you just try to build a great community and get as much people involved as you can.
No doubt, no doubt. So the saying, once a bulldog, always a bulldog. Can you go into that a little bit more, Coach?
Heck yeah. So, all right, like I'm real proud of where I'm from. I'm real proud of where I grew up. And the high school I graduated from, we were Dunmore High School, and they're the Bucks. And the saying they have there is, once a buck, always a buck, right?
All right,
So I get to Butler, and again, it's just something that these guys were already saying, and it's just something we continue to talk about, and because again, it's just so important to me for our alums to be able to come back, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to be a Butler for so long, and that I wanted to put roots down in a place because whenever I would go back to Scranton, like one of the very first stops I make was I would go to the field house at the high school to see the coaches and even if I know like they're not there, it's just to be there and it's just like that's my like my recharge, like my plug into the wall is to go there and like just breathe it all in and just remember so many things that happened there. Um, but no, it just means, once a bulldog, always a bulldog. It's like, look, we've gone through something together because
Right.
that's one thing that all of our kids, whether they were, a backup D lineman in 2004 or, our starting running back in 2024, they're all going to suffer the same. Like we're all going to put them through this. We're going to put them all through the same stuff. And, it doesn't matter if you're being recruited, not recruited. I mean, you came here to be coached by us. You're going to be coached by us. And
Absolutely.
so you're all in it together. So, it's kind of like that. Hey, you went through what I went through and I'm with you. Like you got a friend and you got my respect already because we're the
yeah,
same.
no doubt, man. And what are some of the toughest things with coaching? Pretty much grown young men. Going
Yeah.
into high school, they a lot of testosterone. How is that experience? What is over the years, man? 20 years, coach. You've
Just,
come through different
yeah.
personalities, and
And it's just because kids can be so different, just from a physical standpoint. Like you look at some of these 18-year-old seniors who look like grown ass 25,
Yeah.
26-year-old men, but then you got some of these freshmen that are like, there ain't no way you're in high school, And there's just such that wide spectrum. Now,
Right.
mind you, this one may be more mature than this one, emotionally or socially. So you're having to keep an eye on all that stuff. You got to manage, you got to be ready for any of that stuff because anything could throw them off at any time because they are so emotional. And I mean, hey, we all remember are so hormone driven that like,
Hmm.
and everything's the end of the world to them or it's the greatest thing that ever happened. Like it's hard to find a middle ground with them. So, just try to be consistent with them as much as possible. So there is that like, and even going into games, we talk about, whatever happens, don't be too high, don't be too low.
Right.
Like, just try to keep these guys balanced because they're nuts, man. They're all crazy.
Well, speaking of testosterone, how important is it to have a great strength and conditioning program, man? Because I know a lot of schools are lacking that. You can actually see it on the
Mm.
field. When you see a Butler team, you know those guys have been in the weight room. So how important is that in your program?
Yeah, man. And again, that's one of those things I had nothing to do with picking it up, starting it, or anything like that. Like these guys are getting after it when I got there. And like even that day I interviewed, like I still remember they were doing a 300-yard shuttle that day, and a guy who he was a freshman, his name was Cameron Mellon, who would go on to come back and coach with us in 2012. But like he was a shorter little defensive lineman, kind of short limbed and all that. But Newsom blows the whistle for this kid to go, and like he was shot out of a cannon. Like all this kid did was go as hard as he could, and He made it about 75 yards, and it was a wrap for him. But he went, and it was
Right.
just like that's what these guys do. And heck, it Flano, it might even been when Jay was playing that we went up to A.L. Brown to scrimmage. And I wasn't real happy with the performance that night. And I thought we didn't play hard and we are kind of soft. So we did a few burpees before we get on the bus. And as we get on the bus, Newsom come over to me. He's like, "I get it. I know where you're coming from." And he said, "Just remember," he's like, "Bulldogs always show up on Friday night."
Absolutely.
But that goes back to the weight room and that culture there that was established. But no, I mean, we've been so lucky. I mean, goddamn. I mean, the guys we've had in the weight room and running that, I mean, they were blessed. I mean, God, these kids have it so good. And that's the thing we always tell them, like, if you want to be great, you have every tool here to be great. Like, the only thing that can stop you is you. So,
Absolutely, man.
but no, man, that's that weight room. I mean, it's just if you're not doing it, I don't know how you got. I don't know how you're head coach.
Wow. So, Coach, man, we might have a few people checking in with us, man. What's some of the pointers that you can give our audience to rub off to give to their young man, Jules, to give their young man that's trying to get a D1 scholarship or D2 scholarship, or maybe a kid that's getting overlooked? What advice can you give some of the parents that may be checking in? That's
Yeah,
kid?
for sure. First of all, that scholarship, make that plan B. All right, that's got to be plan B. All right, and I'm going to tell you why. We went up to D.C. to get our rear ends kicked by St. John's a couple years ago, right? And that Friday night before the game, we did one of the coolest things we ever did. And we had this big meeting. It was the players, it was the coaches, guys. That we didn't watch a second of film. We didn't talk X's and O's. It was a wide open. Ask me anything you want. Ask me anything. I'm a wide open book. And it was kind of a real cool thing like that. But we had a kid, and he was a senior that year. He's like, "Coach, what do I do? Like, if I don't make it out?" And I knew the kid, and I knew what his grades were, of course. I said, "What's your GPA?" He said, "Well, it's 3.0." And I was livid. I'm like, "Dude, you're out. You're out. You have a 3.0 GPA. What else do you want?" But somewhere, some point along the line, somebody told this kid that your only way to go to college is on a scholarship.
Wow.
And when you do that to a kid, like you
Wow.
immediately, it's not fun anymore. Now
Right.
you just put all the pressure in the world on this
Right.
kid. So number one, make that scholarship plan B. Now, if it happens, great. Now take all that money and all those plans and go on vacation. Do something nice for
Gotcha.
yourself, but that's got to be plan B. So from there, though, the first thing you got to do is you got to have your GPA as high as you can, because it's so hard, number one, to get recruited now. And it's one of the things that I hate the most about where things have gone, is with the portal and all that stuff. Like, guys, we had what, 31 seniors this year, something like that, and a bunch of them going to college. But 5 or 10 years ago, like
Oh
even the
man.
ones that are going to college would have had different looking offers, and more guys would have, but it's just not that anymore. And these are guys that have really good grades too. So I mean, like I said, make that plan B, get your GPA as high as you can, do everything you can, but more than anything, have fun,
Right.
because that's one thing I think that we've really taken a lot of that out of high school football. I mean, you think about like back when we played, man, it was about playing with your friends. It was
Playing.
about rivalry. It
Yeah.
was about just doing stuff.
Right.
And now it's like, if you like, I've had kids say, "Coach, I'm not going to get a scholarship, so I don't really see why I'm going to play."
The love.
Yeah, it's like
And
it's
what do you say to
unbelievable
that
what we've
kid,
done
though?
to it.
What do you tell that kid that comes to you and say, "Coach, man, I don't think I'm gonna get a scholarship, man. What I'm supposed to do
What am I
next?"
doing?
Yeah, I mean, what do you tell a kid? Like, okay, what do you want to get out of this program? Are you doing everything you can to get a scholarship? Okay, so if you're doing everything you can, if you're getting the grades as high as you could get them, if you're committed to the weight room, you're making yourself an unbelievably competitive person right now. You're preparing yourself right now for the rest of your life, because, again, you're not always going to get what you want. But the fact that you have the ability to work hard, the fact that you have the ability to learn more, to get a higher GPA, there's no problem in that. That's not a bad thing at all. So, now find out what you love. Like, what gives you passion? What do you love
Right.
to do? Now pour yourself into that. Now you're going to be happy. Now take that work that you put into a scholarship, if that doesn't happen, and now pour that into what you want the rest of your life to be. And I'm going to hit you up for a donation in about 15 years.
There you
Roll
go.
with it. Yeah, for real.
There
Just
you
kind of
go.
going up what Tony was talking about the getting recruited. So what's the difference between being offered and being recruited? Because a lot of kids get caught up in the offers. Like, oh, I got
Yeah,
12 offers, but who's recruiting you?
right. Here's the thing: if you have 12 offers, you probably have 12 invitations to camp. That's it. Like as far and here's the thing again, I've been in this thing for a lot. Like I
Right,
used to think I knew recruiting. I don't know squat about recruiting. Like because these guys they don't know half the time. Like we had a situation where we had a coach from one school come in, offer a kid. This kid goes to camp down there. He goes to games. He stays in touch with the guy. Two other coaches from that school come in to visit, and he says he wants to commit. And they said, "Who?" Like they never heard of him. So you got guys even on the same staff running around throwing offers out.
right.
But again, a lot of these places, all that offer means is come to camp
So what's
because
being recruited mean?
that you got a letter that these guys are in touch with you. That's probably that's more of a give and take with that. The invitation to camp, the offer, and they've never watched you play. That's all it is, an invitation to camp. Now, if you've
Right,
got some interaction, now you're probably getting recruited. Now, it's kind of, and we like in, recruiting to dating a little bit. Like, the more interest you show, they're probably going to show back to you. So now, if
right,
you have that interaction with the coach, okay, that's a good sign. So that's probably the answer to that. But we can get up tomorrow morning; it's going to be different
right.
because they don't know
There
either.
you go.
Facts.
Definitely. Hey, so what? So, Coach, man, now I see that it's approved in North Carolina for private schools, the NIL. What? Can you give us a little insight about that?
Yeah,
Thoughts on
that's
that?
one of those deals. Like, I'm glad I ain't got to worry about it. Because again, it's another deal that there's more questions than there are answers. And it just, because it was, what was it, a year ago, I think, where the state actually approved it. The State Athletic Association approved it for the public schools. And the government turned around and said, "Yeah, no, you guys aren't allowed to do that." So there's this whole
Mm,
contest, this whole flex thing going on with them up in Raleigh. But it's just it's I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know who they expect to watch over it and to keep track of it. It's just with so many things, it's just kind of like ready, fire, aim. Like, here you go do this stuff, and now y'all figure it out. And I mean, that's what they did in college, and now look at it. Nobody knows what's going on.
It's out of control. Some of those kids, man, some of those high school kids that we're talking about, those seniors, some of those kids that we're talking about, they ain't gonna get a chance to go to a big time program because you got a kid coming from a JUCO or Division 2, man. That's
Right. And you can't
internet
blame
bullying.
right, and you can't blame the coaches because if I'm a college coach
I
and
gotta
that
win
president
now.
comes to me and says, "Hey, you could bring in whoever you want. They are not bound by contract to any other school.
Mm-hmm.
Give them as much as you want. You better win. If you're not, we'll find somebody who will."
There you go.
There
So
you
yeah,
go.
it's this vicious cycle that's been created, and nobody really seems to want to figure it out.
Yeah,
No
these
doubt.
kids in for a rude awakening, man. It's a whole new program out there, man. If you're
Mhm.
not ready to go, ready to get on the field, you
Right.
might want to think about a different route.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. And I don't know if I just started hearing about it recently or I started thinking about it more recently. But like, think about how many kids go into debt just so they can play college football. Like, listen, I get
Mm,
it. It's great.
Mm,
I loved playing college football. I didn't have to pay.
mm,
Like that was great. Like because if I did, I would have wasted so much money because I was a horrible student. But if I did something, it would have been different.
right,
mm.
But again, that's there. But there's just so many guys that, and there's just so much pressure on them now. Like you got to go to college, you got to play college football, and then and if they don't, like, are they failures? Like, my God, no.
Right.
Like, think about all the work you've put in already, but it's where we are.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. So, I got another question for you, Coach. What advice can you give a guy like me. Like I aspire to be a high school coach, but I ain't putting my best foot forward, right?
Mhm.
But what can you tell a guy like me that inspires to be a high school coach?
Ask yourself, why do you want to do it? What about coaching in high school is so appealing to you? Because if it's an itch you could scratch somewhere else, without, because again, I mean, you're putting yourself into the lives of these kids, and that was the hardest thing for me on Monday. Like these kids open their hearts up to me, they open their brains up to me. That's what you're asking these kids to do, like once you get to the high school level. And if you're not going to be in it for those guys, like if you're, and again, this isn't for you, specifically. It's just in general. But like, if you're not in it for those kids,
Right.
go find another place to scratch that itch, because a
Mm,
lot of these kids are going to attach themselves to you because they need you.
no doubt.
If you're just coming in there because you need to hear that, oh, hey, coach, and you want to have some nicknames for some kids, and you think that'll be cool, and you roll out of there at 5:30 whenever practice is done, you're
Hmm.
probably hurting these kids more than you're helping them.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right, Coach. Man, that a lot of guys, man, just take. I feel like a lot of schools just hire certain guys, and they just take the position because they said I always wanted to be a coach. I would never want to walk into a situation where I'm like, I want to take this team over because I think I can turn it
Mhm.
around. It's so much grunt work, so much work you got to get done in the community. Like when you first got to
Yeah,
Butler,
man.
like what were some of the challenges that you faced that getting that community to rally behind the community of Matthew to rally behind you?
Well, see, for me, the community is already pretty fired up. I come in, we're on a 31 game winning streak and a couple state championships. But for me, it was this guy's never been a high school head football coach, like a head varsity coach. We just lost a guy who was a national coach of the year who helped build this thing and blah, blah, blah. How's this guy not going to screw this up? So for me, it was how do I get these guys to believe in me, to trust me? And for me, it was just do what I've been doing, and there's another, I think it was Griner, as a matter of fact, that was on the staff with us years ago. And he was a little younger than me, of course. And we had a conversation, and he asked me, and I forget how we got to it, but ultimately I said, you've got to find yourself something to do here that makes you invaluable, that makes you so you are really damn hard to replace. And once you do that, now you can you got some roots down. Now you can start to really dig in and kind of challenge yourself with these guys a little bit more.
No doubt, no
Well,
doubt.
let me ask this, Coach. Tone asked you about mentoring coaches and developing. What were some of the things you learned from the coaches that mentored you that you still implement to this day that you find effective, or where you find yourself in situations like, oh, that's what Newsom meant, or my
Yeah,
college coach, or
gosh, there's so many. There's so many. I had so many people that like led me here, but one of the biggest ones that one of my favorite coaches I ever had. He was my O-line coach my last year in college, and the guy's name is Forrest Gregg Jr. Now, some people may know the name Forrest Gregg Sr., who played for Lombardi's Packers, and Lombardi called him, the
yeah,
finest football player ever coached. Well, this is his son. And he coached in a way that if you did something like you didn't execute or you played poorly, like you genuinely felt bad, like you let the man down. And that's to me, God, it's just, and it wasn't like some Jedi mind trick. Like he really did care about you.
right.
And to be able to have that effect on people where they feel like they let you down, like it takes a hell of a lot of effort to do that. It takes a lot of investment, but it's such a powerful thing. Like,
That's awesome.
yeah, and I mean, there's times you gotta kind of dig in on people,
Oh
pretty
yeah.
hard, but the more that they see that other side to you, the more they let you do that,
No doubt.
and the more that's going to be received because the more it's like, all right, look, I know this guy's in my corner, I know this guy cares about me, I must really be screwing up right now. So it just has that much more of an effect.
That's powerful though. Let me ask you
Hmm.
this. You know, we all hear about how soft this generation of kids are, and you've been coaching for 20 years.
Hmm.
What's what's the biggest difference from kids 20 years ago to kids now, as far as being able to coach them hard, criticism, and just be in their face, versus
Hmm.
now when you got to kind of be, you know, a little more softer
Reserved.
approach.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the funny thing about that, Flato, I don't know if it's better or worse, to be honest with you. I mean, I think back to, I mean, God, I was in ninth grade. I get to practice, and Coach Chase, it was this old, kind of older guy, basically just punches me in the stomach out of the blue. And I drop to his knee, and when I get up, I'm like, Coach, what? He's like, I don't know, Hales, you probably got away with something today. And I mean, he was a
That was a
kid.
just in case.
Right, right. But he got me. I'm like, all right, you got me. But God dang, I'd be on the news immediately if that happened. But
Oh,
again, that doesn't mean that it was better back then because of that. It was just different. Now, I do think you have to be more careful, and again, I don't think that's bad. I mean, like I said, as long as these guys know where you're coming from, you could coach them hard. I've had plenty of parents, one of them may be on this podcast right now, said, if you need to jump my kid, go ahead, do it. Yeah, exactly. To have a parent
hey
around you like
man,
that,
do what you
like,
got to do.
yeah, because that's the thing. Like, we're all in it together, and I think a lot of people lose sight of that. But like, we ain't here for long, and we're all in the same area. So let's do what we can to make this thing as good as we can for everybody, not just so 8 or 10 or 20 guys feel good and 10 kids feel bad about themselves.
That's what's up, ladies and gentlemen. We had a late comer to the party, but he's always welcome, Coach Booker.
It's your boy.
I know he's loaded. I know he is locked and loaded.
Am I,
Fire away, Coach.
am I echoing real bad?
Nah,
No.
you good,
Are
brother.
you
I'm
good to
saying-
go, Coach?
No, man, the conversation has been absolutely awesome.
Nice.
Look at this dude. He looks like he's 12 years old.
Talk about retiring.
Hey,
That's right.
listen, man. Let's get right to it.
Yeah.
You look good. I'm assuming you're super healthy. How did you arrive to this situation where you're going to leave the Butler family, man? The sideline. You've been a dog for a long time, man.
20 years.
It's
20 years
a
a dog.
teardrop hovering over Butler High School
Drum roll.
right now.
Black cloud. Black cloud.
And I'm telling you, man, you have enshrined your name in the Coaches Hall of Fame in the state of North Carolina.
Absolutely.
You've been one of the biggest impacts in the neighborhoods, in the school. What's going on?
Let's put it on the line.
On the line.
Talk to me.
It is, here's the thing, and I'm just going to go ahead and say none of you guys have gotten to this point yet. This past year, I turned 50. All right.
I'm 54, Coach. Don't play with me.
Well, fine. I wasn't going to call you out. I know you're older than me.
Hey, we're trying to be modest.
We went 98, man. We went a long time ago. But listen, it was so you got that right. So 2 years ago, my daughter was a senior. She's in the front row of the dog pile, man. We were playing over at Charlotte Catholic in a barn burner. I'm running up and down the sideline, dabbing my daughter up. This past fall, my son's a senior. We're winning football games, and we're having a great time on the field after the game. He's right there with me. My man's about to graduate this year. So there's two really big things at play here. Number one, I'm about to be an empty nester. Number two, I'm turning 50. All right. So once you get there, and all right, Flando, we'll go ahead. We'll say you're in this crew. You start looking at things a little bit different.
Absolutely.
You start thinking about what's down the road for me. Because, and I'm not going to say this was a factor. I mean, it's a little bit of the equation, but you look at the teacher pay scale in North Carolina, like, keep going the way I'm going, man. It's gonna get tougher
Somebody
to eat
flying
as I get
south.
closer to 60. So yeah, I mean, all that takes a role in it. But really, a lot of it too is, and I was saying this at the beginning. I've been on the clock really for 13 years.
Right.
Right.
Once you take a high school head coaching job, that phone doesn't leave your side, or
Right.
it didn't mind. Other guys do things. Everybody does things their own way. My way was my way. And maybe because my way was what it was, I wasn't a 30, 40-year guy. But honestly, I didn't ever want to be that guy either. Like, So the way I look at it now, I'm a young guy. Like you said, I look good. I know you
Yeah.
said I look good. I agree with it.
You look great.
That's right, man. See, I agree. But no, so I wanted to figure out what else I could do, why I could still do other stuff too.
Right.
I don't want to wait till I'm 60 and I'm dragging myself off the field and like, okay, now what am I going to do? Like, no,
Absolutely.
man. Like, I got a chance to do some stuff here, and one of the big things, like my daughter turned 20 last month, right? So we all went out to Asheville, to celebrate her birthday. And granted, this was in February, but I'm like, damn, man, it would be so nice to do this in October and the
Right.
leaves are changing.
Yeah.
And I ain't got to feel bad because I didn't go to the workout that morning, or I don't have to rush back because I got a meeting on Sunday. And that's because one of the deals when you get into this, especially as a head coach, is people close to you are going to have to be, they're going to have to put up with some neglect, and
Right.
it's unavoidable.
Right.
So, as much stuff as I wasn't around, really around for when they were going from say elementary to middle school and then middle school to high school. Now, fortunately, they went to high school at Butler. So I was kind of there, but it was also COVID. So I kind of missed a year too.
Right.
Right.
But now I get a chance to be there as they transition from high school and college into the next phase of their life.
Okay.
And I'm excited as hell about that. Like to hang out with my kids, because my kids are freaking awesome. They're hilarious. And so to be able to be around them now, it feels good for me. It feels good. I'm just excited about it. And I'm
So,
going to
Coach,
be, yeah.
so you're hanging up your coaching cleats. You're not getting ready to walk another sideline.
In the
Is that
South.
what I'm hearing? You're gonna hang out with the fam. You're gonna catch up with some things that you normally wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
So
Nine.
you're not breaking the news that you're migrating like some of these guys to South Carolina.
No, and I'm going to put it to you like this, Coach. It's and I'm not going to say never, because I'm old enough and been through enough to know it's just something you don't say.
Right.
But Butler's my school, okay? And when I say
Right.
Butler's my school, Butler gave me my first teaching job. Butler
Right.
gave me my first head coaching job. My children went to Butler High School. My greatest memories, my worst defeats in football and in life happened when I was at Butler around the people of Butler. I don't know if I could give to another school what I gave to Butler.
Oh, that's awesome.
'Cause that's my school. And again, I'm an alum of Dunmore High School, but Butler's my school. And I
That's
just
awesome.
don't know. And again, if I feel like I'm cheating the kid, I'm not going to do that.
That's awesome.
Respect.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
man.
That's a lot of respect, and that's all I've ever heard from you, man.
Well,
It's
you talking
a lot
to the
of
right people
respect
then.
from the neighborhood, from everybody, man. The ultimate respect. Hey, listen,
Thank you.
I've seen this happen before.
Mm-hmm.
They had a guy named Coach Palmieri. He left Mallet Creek High School and in a similar situation, but I think he went on to coach somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I want to ask you is, what do you say to these athletes who came to play football for Coach Hales? Now Coach Hales is gone, and the kids start to,
Jump around.
getting displaced.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? What do you say to those kids to say, hey, stand strong, continue to be a Butler Bulldog, stay in there. I built the program for you to be successful, regardless of whether I walk the sidelines or not. Because a lot of these kids might take off running. Mallet Creek lost a ton of kids that were key kids to the program at the time Palmieri left. What's the message that you tell these kids to stand strong, stay in tradition of Butler High School?
Yeah, to me, if that's where you're at, you didn't learn a damn thing from me. It's because it ain't about me. It was never about me. again, I've never tackled anybody. I tried to tackle Jalen Cowser one time. You got to hear that story, man.
Big mistake.
Man, no, I would have got him. Man, I would have whooped his tail. But no, I've never gained a yard. I've never made a tackle. I've never done any of that stuff. That has always been the kids at Butler. And there's a tradition there. And if you can't live up to that tradition, then that's on you. You know,
Right.
if you feel like you've got to go somewhere else to be validated, then you didn't listen to me. Because what
Right.
I've always been, you need to stand on your own 2 feet. You need to be your own man. And that's, you know, and I hope they hear me. And that's one of the tough things. I mean, really, we've only lost, gosh, I mean, I want to say maybe we've really only lost one kid over all these years to another school.
Wow.
Because we always told our kids, like, look, if a coach comes in here and tells you, like, what are they going to offer you? What can they offer you that we can't? Like,
Right.
we're Butler High School. Like, I could call any school in America and say I'm for Butler High School in Charlotte, and they're going to take the call.
Right.
So you can't come in and say, hey, we're going to offer you, you have access to colleges. Okay, so do we. Well, you can win a bunch of games.
Right.
Nobody's won more than Butler. So, like, if a coach comes in, is trying to get you to go to another school, that is 100% about him and his ego. They do not care about you because they try to bring you and put you in a place. Those teachers don't know you. The people that are really important to your education don't know you. But at our school, they do because you've been there.
Right.
Right.
So that's what you got to look at. And again, everybody's got to make their own decision. But again, that's what it comes down to. What do you stand for?
Right.
What are you about? Do you want to be part of somebody else's, or do you want to help build something? Do you want to be part of the crew that led the transition from me to the next guy? Because that's a big deal, man. People are going to talk about that. And that was one of the other reasons why this was the right time, because we got a damn good football team over there.
Wow.
And when Barry Shuford left back in, I think it was 03, and Mike Newsom took over, there's a damn good football team there. And when Mike Newsom left in 2011 and I took over, there's a damn good football team there. That's important to me. I wanted to make sure there's a good football team there, and there is.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
So how involved do you get, or do you get involved at all in the hiring process for the next coach? I mean, I know you don't make the final decision for it, but only you know the character and the culture of the football program right now. So
Yeah. I'll be as involved as they need me to be. You know, and I told Satterfield, the dad told him, you know, that I was stepping down. I don't want to be on a committee even if at least one of the assistant coaches is on it, because it's going to be a little bit tainted if I'm on it. Okay. Now, you know, we talked about, hey, you know, would you, you know, can I talk to you about it? I said, absolutely, talk to me about it. That's great. You know, I'd love that. But again, I don't know where I'm going to be 6 months from now. I might be there living in Wilmington with my feet on the beach, renting umbrellas, teaching,
I know, that's right.
pre-kindergarten. I don't know. But I don't have to live with that decision. Whoever makes it has to live with that decision.
Absolutely.
And they're going to have plenty of great options to choose from. I'm not worried. I'm not even a little bit concerned about it, because I know the kids are going to be taken care of, because that's
Good.
ultimately the decision's going to be made with what's going to give the kids the best opportunity.
So it sounds like you're part of the Catamount family too, huh? Right?
Oh yeah, man, absolutely.
Go Catamount!
I'll be up
My
in Columbia on
son
Sunday, baby.
is a rising sophomore, and he plays football
Okay.
for the Catamounts. And
Yeah, man.
he's an impact player this year
get
coming up.
this. So y'all's quarterback out there, right? Little Gonzalez.
Gonzalez, yeah.
Yeah. So his dad was a graduate assistant at Kent State University when I was playing college football.
Okay.
Small circle.
Yeah, man. I've known his dad since like 93 or 94 or something like that.
He's an awesome kid and an even better quarterback.
I love it, man. No,
Yeah,
man,
man.
my daughter's up. But get this, like, she did that dual enrollment through CMS. And I took her up there last January. The day she got there she was a junior. Like, I got a senior in college right now. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man. I love it.
So, guys, I think we're good. Coach Hale has answered all of our questions.
Put the rumors to bed.
I got
It's
one
been
more
a
question.
great-
I got one more question.
Okay, Coach, go for it.
Hey, Coach Hill. Now,
Yeah,
you're
man.
on the line now.
Yeah.
You big time Coach Hell. A lot of winning in 20 years. Come on now, Coach. Somebody done reached out to you already. Come on now.
Yes,
Come on now,
sir.
Coach.
Come
You
on,
better
You
coach.
know
on
it.
the line
Hey,
and you on
hey,
the
we keep
bed
it
with your
real.
gift, Coach.
Man,
Some school done reached out to you already and said,
I
Coach,
know the phone
what I
been
gotta
ringing,
do to keep you
coach.
away from that back nine?
look,
I know you
the
ready to get
phone's
out there in that back nine. What I gotta do to keep you away from that back nine?
no, man. Listen. I had a really good friend of mine. She had asked me. She's like, What would it take for you to keep coaching?" I said, "Nothing." So nothing. Like I'm
Wow.
that at peace with this decision right now. Like, well, would I love to have some? If somebody wanted to throw me a bunch of money, great. But like the whole like 25-hour days and 8-day work weeks and
Man.
like guys, because once July starts, that's what you
It's
got to
on.
understand. For us schools that bring kids in on Saturdays and meet on Sunday, like once that starts in July, we don't like I'm on campus every single day until the season ends. And like that's great. Like I have no problem I had no problem doing it. Like that was my choice to do it that way, but I don't want to do that. That's too hard.
Right.
I mean,
I get
you
it.
know what I'm saying. That's a lot of time, and I want to do something else with my time right now.
Okay.
Um,
Coach.
coach, we often hear this from players, man. Once they hang the cleats up, everybody talks about they miss the locker room and
Yeah,
the miss the guys.
not it.
What are you gonna miss most about coach about those and developing those young men?
Oh my God. So number one, like that part you said, that's why we all get into coaching anyway. I think. I mean, that's why I got part of why I got into it is just that camaraderie. Like you don't get that. You don't get that in other areas. I don't
No.
think. I don't know. I've never done anything else really, but like you don't get so like that camaraderie, that trust. That hey, I'm gonna work my ass off, but I'm expecting you to work your ass off too. So we're all on the same page here. Like that's important. Like I love having that and then just being around these guys, like, and we've had kids on every team. Like you have that kid that and you guys have all been around it. Like there's just those couple of kids on the team that
Mm-hmm.
you're having a bad day. Like, like 2014, 2013. If I'm having a bad day, I got to
No,
go
one more
find me
question.
some Benny LeMay and just hang out with him for a couple minutes or Anthony or Cowser or somebody. But like, you always have these guys because of those relationships. And that and just seeing these kids change, just
Right.
seeing them change because they're goofy as hell when they're freshmen and just to see what they're like when they're seniors now, like even now as they're 30, 35 years old, they're coaching with us and just like, man, like to be able to be a part of a person's life like that. Like, we got Shamari Miller and I don't know you guys I don't know if you know Shamari,
Oh
but
yeah.
Shamari was part of that class that got there when I got there. And so he was a freshman my first year. And then, he graduated high school. He went to UNC Pembroke. As soon as he got done, he came back and started coaching. And Shamari and I have been together since he was a 14-year-old freshman in
Wow.
2004.
Wow.
Like stuff like that,
Wow.
man. Like you can't, there's no other places really to find that. And I'll miss it, but like I think I've developed so many relationships over the years that there's so many people to catch up with and that, man, my plate's going to be full.
All right, coach. You might ruffle some feathers on this one.
Good. Good.
Okay.
You ready for this, coach?
Mhm.
Best team you ever coached?
Oh, see, all right.
Come on now. If we had to put it on the line, it's 4th and 1,
Yeah, baby.
state championship on the line. What's team you going with?
I got you, man. This is easy. As a head coach, this
Ooh.
2012
Uh-oh.
team is a head coach
Mm.
because that was my only state championship team as a head coach. So that's my answer.
Good answer, Coach. Good answer.
Man, I tell you, listen, guys, I got to tell you this story though, because this was one of those moments too when it happened. Like I started thinking, man, maybe this is it because when we practiced on Thanksgiving this year, because we had at least 50 former players
Right.
at practice that morning, and we did this thing at the end of practice. We were getting ready to run the last play of the script. And I stopped the practice. I'm like, wait a minute. We need a sub in here at right tackle. So I took our right tackle out and I introduced Rika Ariana, who was our, on the 2009 state championship team as the right tackle. I'm like, I was like, Jay, you're a hell of a running back, but I need somebody else in here right now. I said, Ryan Houston, come here, jump in.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
Guys, it was like a living, breathing, like all-time
Wow.
Butler fantasy team lined up that
That's
day, and
dope.
like it was these guys that Cowser over there playing D tackle, and like it was just between that and that game in 14 or that game against Catholic 2 years ago, when like the 12 and 10 teams were there, like it's stuff like that, man. Like, gosh, it's like seriously, like this has been my life. Like how great is this?
Right.
I love it. I love it.
well,
That's
listen,
awesome.
Coach. Listen, man, you've been great for high school football, man. You've been awesome to watch. I watched from afar, and I said every time I saw you, that guy's a dog.
Thank
I'm
you.
serious business
Thank
about
you.
that, man.
I appreciate
But
it.
from what I've learned about you, you're a greater man than you are a coach. And I'm telling you, man, you raised a lot of boys to men.
Mhm.
And that's big time. I'll say it again. There's a teardrop hovering
Thank you.
over the field, man. You've been
Thank
great for
you.
high school football, man. And I'm sure I'll say it for everybody else. We're gonna miss you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, God, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much, man. I love that you guys, asked me to be on here, and because I could do this all day, and I
Right.
mean, I got time. So,
Hey, we'll get you back
just
during
to be able to
football
get on
season.
here, and like I said, growing up, man, I played for characters, and to hear these old guys sit back and tell stories, and man, I can't wait to be one of those guys, and
Wow.
here I am. So,
It was a privilege to have you, man.
Hold on, Coach. Hold on, Coach.
uh-oh.
Clark got another one.
What did you do with the boots?
Oh my God. They need
Where are
to
the boots?
Listen,
they need to dip those things in gold.
They they need to hang them on the goalpost.
And hang them on the goalpost.
Where the boots at, Coach?
I gotta be honest, man. I think they just disintegrated one day.
Oh wow.
I saw them. No, man. The last
If you
I
know,
saw
you
them,
know.
I was trimming weeds around the practice field one day, and I had like them old school socks like pulled up to my knees, covered in grass, man. I think them cleats bought it that day, man.
That's what's up, man. I'll always remember the boots.
Hey, Coach, we're gonna have to definitely bring you back in, man, during football season, man. Who your
Oh, for
NFL
sure.
team is?
Take them
What's that?
Who's your NFL team?
Man, I'm Steelers guy. What's up?
Oh my!
Come on, man. Let's go.
You and Philando. We're definitely
That's
having
right.
grown man football.
Oh,
season.
man, come on,
You're gonna have
Steelers,
some
baby.
time on your
You already
hands.
know what time
Hey,
it
I'll
We
is.
can
do,
chop it up a little bit.
I'll have to tell you guys next time, man. I'll tell you about my encounter with Jack Lambert at practice one day.
We definitely gonna have you back, Coach. Definitely gonna have you back, Coach. Man, it's been a
Love you.
pleasure, an honor. I'm glad you chose us to put the business on the line, and like I
Lord.
said, we're gonna impact the culture. So, Coach Brian Hales, 3-time state champion, has hung up the cleats, man. So,
Right
thank
now.
you for coming on the line, man.
Thank you, Coach.
We appreciate you. We respect you, and hope to see you on the back nine.
Love it, man. Love it. Good luck to you guys, man. That's awesome.
Great job,
I
man.
love it.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you, Coach.
guys. All right.
Yeah.
And stream.